Hello and welcome to the B-Town Breakdown. I'm your host for today, Kara Adams, and I'm joined by Gabe Fenster and Jayden to debate some hot new topics in sports. So to start it off, let's talk about IU basketball. Indiana finally beat Purdue after a 9-game losing streak to them, but then they got blown out at home by Michigan this past Sunday. So in the Purdue game, TJD only played 11 minutes and only scored 4 points, but IU still won. But in the Michigan game, TJD played 33 minutes and had 17 points, but IU lost. So is IU better with or without Trayce Jackson-Davis?
I'd like to start off with this. So we saw with Purdue, it was a weird game. We were clearly affected by the rivalry, and I think they were affected by the rivalry. I think with Trayce, he was obviously dominant at the beginning of the season. A major thing that's shown up in the last 2 games, especially, but also in pretty much every Big Ten game that we've had so far, is when he's matched up with an opposing center that's his height or taller or somewhat equally athletic, he struggles tremendously. And Mike Woodson has basically built our offense to every single time we come down the court, we slow down the ball. We have to get Trayce a touch in the post. We need to swing the ball around, find a good shot attempt. And when the opposing centers are almost basically doubling him every single time he touches the ball, it doesn't work. And you saw against Purdue when he came out of the game, you had people like Rob Finney and Trey Galloway just stepping up and playing with a higher pace than normal and pushing the pace and driving effectively. When they drive, someone slid and they kicked out the ball for a good shot attempt, or they drove to the basket and finished well. I think that was a really good showing. And against Michigan, you said he played 33 minutes. And he had 17 points. I think he's still a little bit shaken up after that injury against Nebraska, but I will say, I like the pace that we play when he's off the floor. And if someone, again, I don't think Rob Finney's ever going to step up like that again. But if someone like Trey Galloway wants to step into a massive starting role or step up into a massive role, if he starts pushing the pace and playing at the level he's been playing with gritty defense and pushing the ball effectively, I think Indiana is a more fun team to watch. Maybe not better, but more fun to watch.
All right, Gabe.
Trayce Jackson-Davis, obviously he has the height for a reason. He's a great player. It's just he plays like a big man, but he's 6'9", 6'10" maybe. So it's kind of hard to put him up against this 7'4" Zach Edey. Is that his name? Zach Edey, I think. So I think you match up Trayce Jackson-Davis up against someone his height or smaller, like Jayden said, and he's a dominant player if he's matched up against someone his height or smaller. But you put him up against someone taller than him, and it's hard. It's hard for him to play because he doesn't really have a jump shot. His game is dominance in the paint, backing down the defender, and he just can't back down the defender when they're 6'11", 7 foot. So I think the ideal starting lineup would be Trayce at the 4 and Michael Durr at the 5, but it's hard to put Trayce at the 4 because he plays like a center.
I can't agree with that at all. First of all, Trayce can only finish with his left hand, and the spacing on that team would be horrendous with Trayce and Michael Durr on the floor. Neither of them can shoot outside of 10 feet of the basket, and they're just going to clog up the paint for someone like Xavier Johnson, who the only way Xavier Johnson scores is if he's driving to the basket. Leave him wide open to shoot. He has a Ben Simmons effect. If Trayce Jackson-Davis wants to go far in his career in the NBA, he needs to not only develop a right hand, needs to develop a shot outside of 10 feet of the basket, maybe even a mid-range game, maybe not even a 3, but to play at his size as big as he plays isn't going to be effective. And he can't finish with the right hand either.
I disagree with that. Michael Durr actually is a very efficient shooter. For his size.
Oh, sorry. He plays
No,
5 minutes a
I
game.
think he's scored like
is
10
for
points
a
this entire
7-foot player like
season.
that. He's a very efficient shooter. And
I
no,
also
I'm not
don't
talking about shooting from the arc. From the mid range, he's very efficient. And
you saw 2 shots go in against Michigan and a shot go in against Purdue, and all of a sudden he's an efficient shooter.
I wasn't going to say Trace. I said the ideal would be if Trace didn't play like a center, then he would be at the 4 and Michael Durr at the 5, because then he'd be able to match up against bigger guys. But you cannot do that because Trace doesn't play like a center, so he has to play at the 5, which makes it difficult for IU because you have to put either Michael Durr in or Trace. You can't put them both in at the same time.
Coming down the stretch, I think Woodson needs to finalize his lineups because he's switching them out and messing with them a lot, trying to find the best, most efficient lineup. And I think if we want to have a good chance at a run in the tournament, I think he needs to set a lineup, keep the lineups, and let the chemistry grow, because some of these players are bouncing in and out of the lineup and aren't building enough time with the team. So that's my take.
Is Ja Morant overrated, or should he be an NFL or MVP candidate?
I don't want to say he's overrated, but he's not an MVP candidate. He's still on the rise. He's still a rising star. He's still young. Same with Luka. I don't see Luka being an MVP in the next few years, maybe 2 years, 3 years, but it's still a little early in his career. Ja is a great player. Don't get me wrong. Memphis Grizzlies are doing immaculate in the Western Conference right now. And it's all due to Ja Morant. He's doing a great job.
That's the definition of an MVP in my book.
But I don't think he's an MVP candidate because he is a team player and he has guys around him with Jaren Jackson and Dylan Brooks. And I just don't think that he's like the standout player when you're looking out on the court, because Memphis Grizzlies play with a very high team chemistry type game.
See, now here's where me and you differ. We have very different views about what the MVP award is. You view it as the best player. I view it as what player is not only sacrificing their own points, is elevating the players around them. Ja Morant is in his 2nd or 3rd year in the NBA. He's leading probably the youngest team in the league in the Memphis Grizzlies to the 3rd best record in the league, averaging 26 points per game, averaging 5 assists a game. That's the definition of an MVP in my book. If you're leading your team to a good record or one of the best records in the league and elevating the play style and the ability of every single player around you, that's the definition of an MVP to me. Chris Paul last season, he showed up at that Phoenix Suns organization and instantly improved every single player around them. That's the definition of an MVP to me. And your point on Luka, if Luka can build a team around him, or if he can get a team around him where he doesn't have to do every single thing by himself, he's easily an MVP candidate. He came in his rookie year, averaged 29, 9, and 9. That's not only being the best player on the court and elevating everyone around you, but he fits both our narratives for the MVP.
I want to throw in another point there. I feel like it's hard to say this player is the most valuable player if he has not taken his team far in the playoffs yet.
He hasn't been in the playoffs. He's a 3rd-year NBA player.
What I'm saying. So why does that make him MVP all of a sudden? Because he's having a great season. If anything, he can be most improved player.
You don't have to make to go far in the playoffs. That doesn't mean MVP.
Then what does it mean?
It's the regular season MVP.
Okay, but
the best in the regular season.
A regular
you
season
can't
MVP
account playoffs for the MVP.
A regular season MVP should be good enough to take his team in the playoffs.
Okay, and I'm just gonna say he also was in the playoffs last year.
I didn't say he wasn't in the playoffs. I said he's take the team far in the playoffs.
He took half of his injured team to the playoffs and dueled every single game.
Because there was a play-in tournament. More than half the teams in the NBA make the playoffs. You can't even
dueled with Stephen Curry. He put on 50 points on Stephen Curry's head last year.
Stephen Curry had no team around him. Jordan Poole wasn't even that good yet. Clay was injured. Draymond wasn't even – he's Draymond. I mean, obviously, he'll play make, whatever. There's no one else around Stephen Curry.
The MVP candidates, in my opinion, are Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, Ja Morant. Kevin Durant if he's healthy. But
I don't see John Morant being put in the conversation yet. It's just way too early in his career to be put in. Like you're comparing John Morant to Russell Westbrook, right? That's a comparison.
I'd rather have John Morant than Russell Westbrook.
At this point, correct. But I'm saying a prime Russell Westbrook. That's a comparison. John Morant, Russell Westbrook.
Maybe in an athleticism type point, but I think John Morant elevates players around him more than Russell Westbrook has ever done that.
All right. Russell Westbrook is the same as John Morant, except he is a team player. John Morant, 5 assists a game as a point guard. The point guard is supposed to run the offense, make the plays. How
many assists does Stephen Curry average a game?
Steph has probably 6 or 7 assists, but he's also averaging 29 points a game.
And John Morant's averaging 26. He's averaging 26.
But this is
he's averaging 26, 7, and 6 rebounds a game. That's not an MVP candidate.
I don't think that John Morant is a standout player like that just yet.
Yo, I'm pumped.
I got one thing to say. Jayden Ivey, confirmed footlicker. He licks feet, fetish, all around town. Everyone know it.
I might have to take my shoes off, matter of fact.
The last shot, no question. And the goal is Big Shot Rob's going to end.
Just said.
What?
Indiana by a million. Big bomb. Come on. The thing we're going to do is we're going to feel good, we're going to look good, and we're going to play good. Oh, yeah. 3 keys.
Rob Fantasy, bro. I call him Icy Hot because he's either icy
Oh, he's hot.
or he's hot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there we go.
You're
Doing to stay warm.
We're Portland, Indiana!
Today? We haven't won without Mike Woodson in a suit. 150 to 2 IU.
drinking any Fireball? No comment.
No comment?
Okay.
I plead the 5th.
He pleads the 5th.
W, no doubt. No doubt.
Hoosiers by approximately 1 million.
Mom, I love you. I'm doing this for you. You're my inspiration. Like, let's go Hoosiers.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh no. Well, I'm sorry, you guys aren't winning.
On to the NFL. So Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs defeated Josh Allen and the Bills this weekend in an overtime thriller. So let's talk Mahomes versus Allen. What were your all thoughts on that game?
Best game of football I've ever seen. Actually, correct that. All 4 of those divisional games. Best weekend of football I've ever witnessed, I've ever been alive for. I know Gabe didn't get to watch all of them. However, those games were all decided on the last within a score of each other, on the field goal in the last possession. You can't ask for more storyline, a better situation for all of those teams. You have a potential future GOAT in both Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. I think Mahomes is undoubtedly the best quarterback in the league. But Josh Allen just doesn't get enough credit, man. He is.
Yeah, he doesn't.
He is the definition of a dog. Has the arm talent of any quarterback in the league, has developed the IQ, which is a major thing, has developed the IQ of one of the best quarterbacks in the league, which if you watch his growth, he was not a very intelligent quarterback. And now he's running. He's probably the best runner on his team of the football. And I love watching a player who is willing to sacrifice their body, willing to sacrifice their own stats. Even when you saw the Bills play the Patriots, it wasn't throw football. It was let's run, let's win the game. That's all that matters. And Josh Allen is willing to. He plays with his heart, plays with an emotion that I don't think any other quarterback plays with. And I think he has the potential to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Mm-hmm. Gabe?
Well said, Jayden. I want to throw it over to this whole debate over this overtime rule. I know with the Bills-Chiefs game, there was a huge debate over this overtime rule because Kansas City got the coin toss.
Let's just set up the situation first. What was it? 25 points within after the 2-minute warning. I don't think that's ever been done before.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes threw 177 yards after the 2-minute warning. That's more than Josh Allen threw in that game against the Patriots. No, that was the greatest game of football I've ever watched. And the score changes. I mean, it was energetic, at the edge of your seat, jumping up and down for every second of that game. But to go into overtime and for the Bills not to even touch the football, that's where it bothers me. Because for their season to go as far as they did, the divisional round, taking what as the public views as the Super Bowl favorite and who's probably going to win the Super Bowl in the Kansas City Chiefs, down to overtime, basically whoever won that game was going to go to the Super Bowl or be a Super Bowl candidate, be the best team in the league. For that game and their season to rely on a 50-50 coin toss, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, football is not just about offense, though. It's offense and defense. And, I mean, you got the 1-2 punch. You got Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. Obviously, that's, if not the best offense duo in the league. But it's about
not only Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes. You're forgetting a major person in Travis Kelce, who is a top 3 tight end of all time, if not.
Yeah, that makes up the best offense in the league, like I said. But what I was saying is Kansas City wins the toss. They have a strong offense, obviously, but the Bills need to play their defense because it's not just a one-sided game. You need to have offense and defense. Like the Bills, that's their fault that they let up a touchdown. They need to play their defense.
Listen, I'm not going to disagree.
If they played their defense, then they would get the chance to run the ball, and they get to dominate with their offense. So that's why I think the coin toss is fair.
Again, I don't disagree with that. That's like Josh Allen said in his post game. If they won the coin toss and they got to score a touchdown and go on, they wouldn't be complaining. But when you have your
Josh defense, Allen said if he won the coin toss, he'd be celebrating too, which is not true.
Which is why he's not complaining.
But that's not true because Kansas City would need to play defense too.
Right. So which is what I'm saying. When you have your defense on the field for the whole game, obviously tired, not take into account the last 2 minutes of that game. Defense gets a lot more tired than offense, and you know that, Gabe.
No, I agree, but offense is tired too. It's not like the defense
was on the field 3 times within the last 2 minutes of the game. They were gassed, 1. 2, I just think, especially with the talent in those 2 offenses, you need to let each magician in Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes touch the ball once, give them an equal chance. I think the NFL needs to have a major discussion on taking on the NCAA overtime rules. I think those are a perfect definition of what overtime in football should be. I don't think it should be a sudden death thing. I mean, I get it. It's overtime, next score wins, but it should just be another half a quarter to let the teams duel each other out. Have the coaches analytically choose, because when it's a coin flip, the coaches' analytics are basically taken out of the equation, and that's a huge part of the game nowadays.
You want to talk about tired defense? If we were letting the teams duel back and forth, you see how back and forth that game was? If you let the Chiefs get their run and then you get the Bills get the run, the game wouldn't end. I think it's fair.
Eventually,
100 yards. 100
eventually
yards
it will end
down the field.
Gabe, eventually the game will end, and that's a more satisfying.
Eventually, when both teams are exhausted, and then there's going to be complaining. We were tired. That's not fair. I think they made him 100 yards to make it down the field. 100 yards to get a touchdown.
The game will end eventually. If you want to win like your
it's
argument.
Fair.
Your argument to if the game is if they add another quarter and let the teams eventually win out against each other in the correct way versus winning off of a coin flip, that's a more satisfying victory.
But it's 100 yards. You know how hard it is to go 100 yards down a field?
They did it.
Lucky if you can even get to field goal range. That's what's fair about it. You get the field goal, then the other team gets a chance.
Okay, so get into field goal range, and then the other team scores a touchdown. It's different. The other team scores a field goal. You continue battling.
But that's why they let up a touchdown. They let up 100 yards.
Gabe,
I think we're gonna have to wrap it up pretty
I
soon
need
on
you to
that
go watch
topic.
Clemson versus Notre Dame last year NCAA football overtime. Best overtime game of football I've ever seen, and it was a satisfying victory, even though it went 3 overtimes.
I think we can wrap it up there. There was a lot of exciting action this week in all sports. So that's it for our show today, and we hope you enjoyed watching. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram and repost our videos. For the B-Town Breakdown,
TikTok.
I'm Kara Adams.
We now have a TikTok too. I'm Jayden Betron.
TikTok for I Even the Fan. I'm Gabe Fenster.
And we'll see you next week.